What's that? This looks like a job for Superman? Nah, I need my glasses. What's up, YouTuber? I'm Rico Casimiro, and this is my very first attempt at doing a movie review. Now, just quite recently, Batman vs. Superman just came out, and there were mixed receptions regarding it, actually. I, for one, was the biggest fan. Actually, for me, it was the biggest movie of the year, which I was really waiting for, and that includes the Avengers movie. So, what did I think about what happened to Batman vs Superman? Granting that a lot of us have already seen it, so I don't really need to tell you what exactly happened, scene per scene, or what exactly transpired. But what did I feel about it? Well, quite frankly, I came in hopeful. Hopeful, actually, because if you all recall, just last year, Age of Ultron, when it came out, I had the same level of anticipation, actually. Probably slightly lesser, but it was still great enough. When Age of Ultron came, the marketing was amazing. How they kept showing you trailer after trailer after trailer, and how they tried to show the theme of the story. Basically, how you could tell that it was gonna be serious, something different, something unlike any of the other previous Marvel movies. Well, when it finally came, when I finally got to see Age of Ultron, it didn't meet up to the hype. So similarly, that's what happened with Batman vs Superman. I came in with very high expectations, granting that could have been my fault entirely for not learning from Age of Ultron, not deciding to lower my expectations. But despite that, despite the possibility that it could have been my fault as well, nevertheless, it's up to the studio to actually really meet up the expectations that they were making, the how they promoted it. That's how I see it, anyways. When they showed Batman vs Superman, there was a large chunk of it where you could tell that this show was it was good. Granting, it was good. The fights were good. Some of the stories were good. Basic scenery was good. Zack Snyder, without a doubt, he's very, very good at visuals. Visually speaking, the movie was amazing. It was like looking at straight out of a comic book. You could clearly tell that this guy knew what he wanted to see, what he wanted the audience to see. But here comes the bad news. Here comes the parts that we all just gotta accept. There were some things which just didn't work well with the whole movie itself. Basically, there were several portions of it. One of which, for me, was Lex Luthor. A hero is only as good as his villain. So even if we knew already that Batman, the main point of the story should have been Batman versus Superman, and Lex is just a side character, but you just can't help shake the feeling that Lex is still the bad guy, where you all had this notion eventually that even if they do fight, at the back of all of that, Lex would have something to do with it, or maybe, spoiler alert, he did. But you would have hoped for that when it comes to Lex Luthor, when they finally get to him, at least it would just be for the sake of fighting him, and then both of them would be the main point of the story. And if so, you can tell that Lex should have been a minor character. Granting he was a minor character, but despite being a minor character, he weighs heavily. He holds a very important role to us. Right after we just saw Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville, you were asking and looking for a decent Lex Luthor interpretation. Of course, many people already had their preconceived notions that Lex Luthor might have, or Jesse Eisenberg might not have met the expectations. But despite that, I was hopeful. Once again, shame on me, yes. When Jesse Eisenberg was on screen, didn't work for me. At first, visually, he could work. He's like this crazier version of Lex, skinnier, kind of practically different. But Lex in its entirety, as how you know Lex, as how the fans know and hope for, he was in it. He basically said lines and gave it in such a way where it did not hold up to how you would have wanted it to come out. There were some things which was not as impactful, it was not as scary, and basically it just seemed out of place, and it didn't help even with all of the great actors he was together with. I was hoping against hope that all the good actors would rub off on him. Of course, we all know that Jesse Eisenberg, well, I think Jesse Eisenberg is a decent actor. He's a good actor. I've seen some of his previous roles, and decent enough. I liked it, and we were hoping against hope that maybe he can pull off this character of, hey, Heath Ledger was able to pull it off, and there were several actors before him who were able to pull off roles as difficult as this. But sadly, Lex wasn't able to be met. Lex was not met by Jesse Eisenberg. So that's one flaw against it, which I entirely did not like. Next, what else did I did not like? When Doomsday came, when Doomsday was shown in the trailer, many people had their complaints as to basically what he looked like. Overall, for me, I had no qualms whatsoever, granting that he came in the most without any the details were not as exact as how you'd imagine Doomsday to be as in the comics, but nevertheless I was more than content enough, and the mere fact that they were relating it to the fact that every time he did grow those spikes on him, he was getting bit closer and closer to probably the Doomsday we were hoping for. Of course, he didn't completely turn to what I had in mind, but it was good enough for me. What I did not like about what they did to Doomsday was that he was just this oaf of a character meant to be disposed and in the most quickest manner possible. He came there, it felt like he was shoehorned in the movie actually. It felt like the whole movie shouldn't have even included him in the first place. But he was there in the large portion of the movie where, of course, I love the action, I love the destruction. Sometimes it's unjustified already, considering the destruction he already did with Metropolis, which was already justified because of the story. What he did to Gotham, granting that it was only a bay, still I didn't feel that. I just felt it was a little bit too much. But still, how they handled Doomsday in its entirety, he was very quick. It was like he was just shoehorned into the movie, and then when he finally got killed, they killed him off just like that, and he's gone. And of course, there's a possibility that he could come back, but the way they did it in the movie, it was like, that's it. That's basically Doomsday, and we were hoping that he'd be more of a threat. And for him to be more of a threat, you would think that it would take more than just 3 people and a kryptonite stick to take him out. I would have been hoping for a more Justice League kind of fight against him. So, but apparently they were too excited to use him. They needed a big villain as fast as possible, considering as the pace that Marvel seems to be going at right now. He was there, and the fight was decent enough, but it wasn't good enough, and he shouldn't have been there in the first place. My final comment is that since Doomsday shouldn't have even been there in the first place, the final boss fight, as every other person has been saying, should have been the Batman vs Superman. Yes, the title of the movie should have been heavily focused, what practically is heavily focused on Batman vs Superman. Instead, what they did was, there were so many unneeded scenes which required for them to set up another Justice League movies, the inevitable solo films of the other characters who would soon show up. The awkwardness in how they showed Aquaman, which I really did not like. In fact, here's one thing which my friend actually told me at our office. She said that the cool thing about Marvel is that when they show scenes, they give you itsy bitsy breadcrumbs for you to try to figure out. At least you can think for yourself that, hey, I must be pretty smart at this, even though you may not actually be, for me to figure out the connections, the clues which are left behind by Marvel. But DC, when they did it, no, here's a glimpse of Wonder Woman, bang, and then they give it to you. And then there are other clips, possible logos of other heroes. These other heroes could have been like an Easter egg, basic Easter eggs for fans and those know-it-alls to consider as if, hey, I know that reference, but no! Instead, they show it to you in its entirety. Each and every last one of them were given their own respective scenes, and it wasn't even glimpse. It was long enough for you to determine who they were. In fact, that whole scene with Flash, granting it was cool actually in its own right, but it was just too long. And the moment and how they showed Aquaman as well, the awkwardness. It was just sheer awkwardness. I'm sure everybody can understand what I meant. What I meant. Of course. Now, where was I? Yes, they shoehorned so many Justice League, soon to be Justice League movie references, where basically the movie was no longer Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. On the other hand, it was more of a Dawn of Justice. And then Batman versus Superman. That exactly. That's how it was. Batman versus Superman. The fight between Batman versus Superman in itself was so quick, was so fast that I don't even know why they bothered marketing their fight in the first place. They marketed it so much as if pick a side, choose a side. Who are you gonna choose? Is it Batman or is it Superman? Are they gonna be battling based on different ideologies from what we've already hoped for? Where Batman would stand for this, Superman would stand for this, and they strongly believe in what they believe in, and that's what drives them to fight each other. To the point that it really does become a greatest gladiator match in history. But no, they fight because they're pushed into it, and it becomes a one-sided match. Basically, Soups was so beaten up. In fact, there was a part of me which just didn't like the fight whatsoever. Of course, scene-wise, so many of the visual aspects were so similar to that of Frank Miller's comics or take on the Batman vs Superman fight. But other than that, it was too quick. It was focused in a single area, and it wasn't even the main fight to begin with. It was just a fight leading to an even bigger shoehorned fight, which was Doomsday. Yes, guys, Batman vs Superman, the fight itself was too short. Granting it was cool enough, but it did not meet my expectation. Yeah, well, that's how I saw it. Anyways, that's all I got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed my review, and I'll try to make more of this if you guys liked it. Anyways, if you liked what you see, and I'm not gonna copy this, and you want to see even more, just subscribe. Alright.